Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo Saturday edition. I'm your host and keeper of the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are Minions 2, DrFunctional.
I'm only Minions 1.
And SkepTok.
Minion 2. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we, a lot of people are tired and not here. So, but Functional, you're trying. I mean, I'm tired.
I'm tired,
too.
but I'm here. Like, I don't know.
Next week, I'm going to be epically tired. I have meetings that I'm attending remotely. I almost had to fly to Ireland next week, which would have been annoying because I actually don't have any luggage at present because I just don't travel a lot, so I'm not equipped for it. Got my passport, but I don't have any luggage. And so I was going to have to go do a business trip to Ireland. And the really annoying thing is because of how my customer wrote my statement of work, they made it impossible for them to pay me for travel. But all of a sudden they want me to travel, and I'm like, well, this is on you. Because
you could just build it into whatever contract.
Well, you can, except that on the statement of work, it explicitly makes it impossible for them to pay me for travel. Like, you will not get compensated for travel. And I'm like, well, I'm not spending $2,500 of my own money to go do something that you clearly don't want me to do. So
find an account called the money you're going to pay me, and then pay me the money.
Yeah. Well, they realize the error of their ways, but honestly, it's just like it was such short notice that I really didn't want to fly 17 hours each way to go to Ireland. But my special punishment for that is all week I'm going to have meetings from 1 a.m. till 9 a.m.
with Irish people.
And so that's going to be fun. Yeah. So I'm staying up till 3 a.m. tonight, and I'm going to stay up till like 5 or 6 a.m. tomorrow night.
Condition yourself.
Yeah, just try to move forward because there's no real good way to basically move to graveyard. I don't know. I assume. I know Skep. You're a special case because the Navy is almost like being a surgeon. Okay, so setting that aside, setting that insanity aside, Functional. Have you ever worked a graveyard shift?
It was almost exclusively night shift.
Were you good at switching between shifts? Because once you're on it, it's okay. But I find moving shifts around to be really hard.
Well, that's why I'm tired right now, because usually I'm a night owl. I'm usually, up and about and don't fall asleep till 5, 6 in the morning. But I'm conditioning myself because I've also got big week ahead. Obviously, the painting stuff is ever going and constantly there. But I've got can't say much because I'm under NDA, but I've got a games tests for the next 2.5, 3 weeks. And that's requiring quite a bit of my time on top of everything else. So I need to be present and awake for 8, 9 in the morning, which I hate doing, but it's, doable.
Yeah. I'm looking at the chat. We have nothing to see here. Sorry, I don't mean to steal your job, Skep, but we have nothing to see here. And Mike R. is talking German. Let's see. Yes. Guten Abend. I actually did study German because I had to pick a language, and I was stubborn, and I said, "No, I'm not learning Spanish. I don't want to."
And Mike.
So we had this textbook. I took it at the local junior college. We had this textbook, and it was like I think the name of the book was Guten Tag, wie geht's? And it's like it had all this conversational German. So I remember completely useless phrases from my German class. I don't have a comprehensive, even after a year of it, I didn't come out of it with a comprehensive knowledge of grammar or anything else.
It's the old stuff. It's like the French thing where, bonjour, Jean, bonjour. Où vas-tu? Je vais au bibliothèque. Where are you going? I'm going to the library.
Yeah.
All the useful stuff you need at the train station in Paris.
Nothing that useful. So, for instance, Sie sind immer zu spät, das gibt 2 Minuten Strafbank. You're always late. You get 15 minutes in the penalty box. Great phrase, right? And I know my German absolutely sucks. I'm fully aware of that. I'm not proud of my inability to speak German, but I am proud of my inability to speak Spanish because I'm stubborn and I refuse. But enough about me. Hi, Skep.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing okay. I'm not going to Ireland, so I got that going for me.
Well, and you won't have to endure Rosie O'Donnell.
That is true. I was actually surprised, though.
Oh, yeah.
It really wasn't. If you time it right, it's really not that expensive to go to Ireland. And being a U.S. citizen with ID and everything, I don't really have to worry about getting back. I know people who aren't going on business travel who have green cards because they're afraid they're going to run into problems.
Absolutely. Right. And that's probably a prudent safeguard until this situation gets a little bit normalized.
Yeah. Well, they're not afraid to break stuff in the current government in order to get stuff done. They're really
No, sorry, Bob.
they're really more in the hi Kefki, hey Camel. We're really in the ask for forgiveness rather than permission phase of things. It's like you can really sense that Trump knows he's got 4 years, and after that, there's not going to be anything else. So he is not messing around with the timetable. And if he has to make a few mistakes and then go back and fix them and apologize, so be it. That's my impression, at least. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy to frame this through the Doge effort. The Doge effort started off like a ball of fire, and they found about $150 billion that they could cut, which is not even a drop. It's not even a molecule in a drop in the bucket to, what we need to cut to make any meaningful progress on the debt. And what happened when they even tried to cut the 150 billion was there was such a bureaucratic response, such a backlash from the senior bureaucrats who just basically can slow government down to a crawl. I mean, they can really be pains in the asses. Nothing gets done. Everybody gets mad. And people who make big donations to political parties get mad. And, things become unsettled and then they settle back down. The problem is that during all that time, very little progress in the good things the government is capable of doing occurs because of all the wheel spinning that's going on. So, and I look forward to more wheel spinning and kind of as a result, kind of a lackluster growth rate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's what really worries me, is that our growth rate is going to flatten.
Well,
if that happens, we will have stagflation.
Well, speaking of growth rates, you said something about corn before the show.
Yeah, We're Brenda has solved the riddle of growing corn. We actually reoriented the garden based on some suggestions of people, and also because it just was a good idea for a number of reasons. And we have a bunch of rows of corn, like 9 rows of corn, and it's almost waist high already. It's
nice.
April.
That's
going to be amazing.
That is going to be that's going to be a nice summer you're going to have.
It's going to be some fun. And the tomato plants are coming in. The potatoes are doing beautifully. The watermelon vines are finally, putting their heads up above the soil, so we're getting to see them. The peppers, onions, and all that stuff. I don't think we're growing any peas or beans. We might be growing one string of beans. That's about it. And I think we've done enough beans over the years. Anyway, we're rotated crops and having a good time. I probably don't have more than about $4 in each ear of corn. So,
but it's still, when you can walk out and harvest it yourself.
Yes, sir, Bob.
And then eat it, it is totally worth $4 an ear.
And you've just gathered eggs that your chickens have laid. Oh my God, dude. Mm-hmm. You feel so smart.
So, Functional, have you ever had Mexican street corn? Elotes?
I don't know if it's if it was like Mexican street corn, but I've had like street corn.
So basically you grill it, you put lime and stuff on it, usually crema, and then you
Lots
sprinkle
of salt, lots of lime.
you sprinkle lots of crumbly Mexican cheese on top of it, so it's salty, tangy, delicious. It's great. It's a great way to eat an ear of corn if you've got a bunch of it. You should definitely give it a try sometime. Elotes.
Elotes. Yeah, that's what that's called. Elotes. I've heard it called. We just call it Mexican street corn, and it is a delicacy. It's really delicious.
So Andreas says delicacy. Let's make fun of foreigners. It's fine. So what were you gonna say, Functional?
It sounds unappealing to me, but it sounds like it could be good.
You don't like limes or corn or
cheese? No.
You don't like cheese?
Oh.
Oh, I forgot. You're that person. Okay, never mind.
But the lime and salt sounds delish. Like maybe grind up some kosher salt and some lime juice and
put
it down. Yeah. That's what I've had. That's what I had was citrus and salt on corn. Yes.
Seriously, you are a cook who does not like cheese?
There are people who are like that, Skep.
Not a fan of
I don't know many, but I know a few.
I've tried a lot of them, like a lot of them.
I don't get surprised much.
Just not a big fan. Like I'll eat, pizza because which includes cheese, but it's not my favorite part of the pizza.
Yeah, and there aren't cheeses that you just go wild for. You really want to have.
I understand why. I can taste it. I can understand. Oh, this has got a lot of body and it's got a lot of aroma. I can see why somebody would like it, but it's just not my components.
But it's just not your cup of tea. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, enough about cheese. I just figured, Skep, there are so many things you can do with corn. If you've got fresh corn like that, there's really only one correct way to eat it. But
you grill that shit, man.
But I really like a good corn salad. One of the barbecue places I used to go to, their barbecue wasn't particularly good, but they had this insanely good corn salad. I'm like, because if you're at a place that has good potato salad and all the good sides you get with barbecue, and then you pass over it to go for the corn salad, that corn salad's got to be pretty good.
It's got to be pretty special. And we actually just had, night before last, we had ribeyes and corn on the cob, grilled corn on the cob from the grill, grilled steaks, and it was just an amazing.
Okay.
Well,
that's it. That's why I'm kind of just so activated by the whole discussion. I just had some of that delicious stuff.
Nice.
The reason why the world imported American corn hundreds of years ago, and now it's all over the world. It's because it's so great and so versatile.
I mean,
and there's different varieties. Too.
I like tomatoes more than corn, but corn is pretty damn great.
I wanted to ask Functional, and this is something having to do with steak. Functional, there's a cut of steak that I like better than ribeye. You're not going to believe what it is. It's a New York steak. Have you ever heard of that?
New York strip? Yeah,
New York strip. I like that. I like the flavor of that cut of beef better than the taste of a ribeye. Is that unusual or is that?
No, actually, in the Northeast, because proximity to New York, the New York strip was massively popular.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like ribeye. I think my favorite is just because it's going to sound a little pretentious, but filet. In my career, because restaurants, they're always trying to, get more butts and seats. Almost everywhere I worked that had steak, filet was like the top earner, top seller. And in dealing with a lot of catering type stuff, there's 50 tops, 50 people, people eating, and you need to prepare 30, 40 filet. And maybe this is not a great example, but and like 20 people eat it, you're left with 10 to 15 filet. What do you do with it? I'm not going to let it waste. I sit there, I fucking eat like 5 of them and go home like, oh, I'm so full of steak. But the cow is just such a wonderful creature. Every cut is great. I don't care what it is. Every cut is great. Your hanger steaks, your rib steaks, your chuck, your tenderloin, brisket, it doesn't matter. Ugh, give it to me.
One thing, let me just tell you one quick thing about requesting a hanger steak. Make sure you get a hanger steak. They will pass off other cuts of meat. No, that's a hanger steak. Bullshit.
Yep.
Be careful.
Look at the striations in the in the sinew.
YouTube is your friend.
There are a number of cuts that come off the top sirloin primal that you can pass for other steaks, and hanger steak would be easy to do the old swapperoonie on those. But you said that you wanted to talk about the Douglas Murray thing, functional.
Well,
and you and Skep are going to talk about this, and I'm just going to sort of get out of the way because I actually don't have particularly strong opinions about this, but let's try to keep it to like 10 or 15 minutes if possible.
Well, sure. And I mean, it wasn't really like a strong opinion. I was just, I find what we're going through on the internet in the modern age interesting. And to the broader context, that was the subject matter. But the broader context is that a lot of stupid people get a lot of attention online. And I say stupid in that they may be good people or whatever, but they're ignorant. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. A huge example of that is Joe Rogan. But it's always prefaced with the fact that Joe says, look, I'm an idiot. I'm a meathead. I don't know anything. I bring these people on because I want to hear what they have to say. That's my defense of Joe Rogan. However, when you have stuff like this, and it's like, Douglas Murray is like so far past their intellectual better. Both of these guys combined are still not fit to like lick the bottoms of
speak the same language.
Yes. And I sit here, I'm listening to Murray trying to explain this, and I'm like, yeah, and like, what's so hard for Dave and Joe to like understand here? And it's like, well, I've been, and Murray's like, well, I've been here. I've gone to these places. I've seen what war does. Ukraine, Korea, Israel, Russia. He's gone to in North Africa. He's gone to these war zones. He talks to the people on the ground. The same type of stuff that made Tim Pool famous, going to Malmo, going to these no-go zones on the ground. Why? Because there was a time where people going to these types of places for these types of things, it doesn't even have to be something like violence, but it could be food, could be anything. You're going and experiencing firsthand. You obtain that firsthand knowledge for yourself, and then you share it for people. Think, what's his name? Anthony Bourdain. His cooking shows, or his food shows, because he didn't really cook, but that's what it was all about. Him going to these places and experiencing this stuff, and you live vicariously through him, and thus he becomes sort of like a quasi-expert on these things, sort of like what Douglas Murray has done. So my question was to you and to Harry, like, do you feel the same way? Like there's too much unknown. Like I deign to use some of these words, but too much ignorance with the assuredness that some of these people speak on certain topics. Like Dave Smith, he's been outspoken about Israel. He's never even been to the Middle East. Sure, I'm not saying like they were trying to trap Murray into saying no. I'm not saying you can't talk about it. I'm saying maybe you should be a little bit more educated, or say at the beginning, like Joe does a lot of the time, I'm an idiot. I don't know, but I feel like XYZ. Like maybe Israel's taking it too far. Okay, that's a valid opinion. Now, here's why you're wrong. And that's exactly what Murray does. But again, Murray is so far ahead of where these people are intellectually, they just cannot understand the words that are coming out of his mouth.
You want my quick take, and then I'll throw you to Skep?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the problem. we always talk about like the marketplace of ideas, and you get honest people who are intellectually honest having discussions with each other, and it goes over a certain pattern, right? So there's like thesis, and then somebody responds, and then you go back and forth, and then if you're honest, in an Oxford style debate, right, at the end you end up with people from the audience kind of moving in both directions. Trouble is, we are surrounded by people who are corrupt or who just want to they just want to win. They just want to win the argument. Internet blood sports, right? We are surrounded by dishonest actors. And so we have like almost a knee-jerk reaction when somebody says like what Douglas Murray did to Dave Smith, when they're talking about like who's really qualified to have an opinion. What does it mean to have an informed opinion? And that's like a trigger, right? Because there are people who will just show up for a debate, right? And they will use what was previously debate, like an honest debate type thing, intellectually honest, and they will use those rules against you to delay, to gish gallop, to do all the other things. So we all know, those of us now in the current year of 2025, that when we hear certain things, you have to rise immediately or you're not even going to get to talk again. So I think this was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and it kind of went very poorly for everybody involved. Nobody came out of this looking good.
Yes.
That's my take on it. Because it is, the whole problem. It's like there's a lot of anti-science stuff after the fact that so many scientists and politicians under the robes of science lied. They're like the priests.
Trust the experts. Now everybody kind of scoffs when you say the word expert.
I trust science, but to me, when I say that, I mean I trust the scientific method to give me better answers than other methods. That doesn't mean I trust a dude with a PhD or certainly something that's part of the government where they say I am the science. It's like the dumbest thing you can possibly say, right? That's just
exactly.
That's just
and that's the sort
stupid.
of delineation we need to make as people. And be like, hey, well, this is the scientific method playing out. Doesn't matter if this person was right or wrong 2,000 times before. I can now look at this scientific method and say, okay, that is valid. That I see the process here, and I'm more inclined to believe your statements about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfect, but there really is this sort of rise of the midwits going on because so many people who were bad scientists or just bad people lied under the color of science. And so science has gotten a really bad reputation with people. And, I don't actually blame them because the people who knew what they were doing had an obligation to try to like science communicate more better. And they should have actually done more to fix this shit. So there's a lot of blame to go around. Everybody but me this time. I didn't do anything. I have nothing to do. I am not responsible for any of this sort of crap. Nothing. Yeah, I actually am a pretty clear communicator, and I do what I can. But my opinion is of this Dave Smith thing is it got a little heated for no reason because these people are all pretty much on the same side. And it just didn't have to go down this way, but it did. If you talk for long enough, you're going to say something stupid and you're going to piss people off. That's just the way things are. I kind of hope that they'll come back and do another show and bury the hatchet and just act like a bunch of dudes at some point.
I don't think Murray will. Well, not after Rogan's latest.
Well, they need to just act like men and not be that way because men are good at getting over this kind of stuff if they're honest people.
I hate to keep going on about this, but again, it's about somebody like Joe. I believe is a, relatively speaking, an honest actor, but he's a comedian. He's a funny guy. Dave proclaims to be a comedian, but he's not. You have to be funny to be a comedian. It's like listening to Nanette.
And God, I wish that was true.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean,
it's a fair point.
People are looking to these comedians as not comedians, but as authorities on this war, that war. And so when somebody like Dave Smith is like, yeah, well, I'm anti-war and blah blah blah. It's like, no shit, you piece of fucking. Most people are anti-war. What you're talking so much and say so little. Stop it. Go tell a joke. But I'm really curious to what Skep thinks about this sort of phenomenon that's playing out and becoming the topic du jour.
Yep, me too.
Well, the only thing that I would say about it is that that comedian guy, Dave, whatever his name is a forgettable midwit. He suffers from about a 30 or 40 literal point IQ deficit to Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray is a genius, and he outthinks himself sometimes. If I had been the comedian and Douglas Murray said, "You haven't been to these places. I've been to these places. I've visited. You've never been to these." If you started pulling that shit with me, I would say, "Oh, what is it? You've been to these places. You light from your luxury aircraft. You go out, get a little bit of camera time, eat at some Tony restaurant, and get back on your airplane. Don't tell me you've been out." I would have gone after him, hammer and tong.
Yeah,
he would have wondered what happened, and that the reason for that happening was Murray outthinking himself. He shouldn't have responded that way. What he should say is, that characterization is so superficial that I don't believe that we really have a basis for discussion. That's what Murray should have said and left it at
that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, no, I think he did sort of like get into his own head and sort of trapped himself.
Very much so. That's
and that's why I agree when Harry says like nobody won this.
Yeah, exactly. This everybody just kind of looked like we're stupid.
And it's funny too, because on just to wrap it up, like on social media, I'll bring that up. Like somebody will be like, "Oh, Dave Smith like absolutely crushed him," or Douglas Murray was like beat them both. I'm like, no, nobody won. And then they're like, if I say, "Oh, Dave Smith like was floundering like a pathetic loser," they're like, "Oh, well, you just want to suck Murray's cock." I'm like, no, look at this tweet, look at this Facebook post. I literally said basically the same thing, but in more specific detail about Murray being kind of floundering, and like you said, I should have said something like that or thought of something like that. That yeah, he did get into his own head, and he wasn't he didn't come like nobody won. So shrug your shoulders and move on.
Yeah. Hey, you want to
sick of these midwits being like the authority on things, like just.
Yeah.
I've been thinking we almost need a quarter wit. We need like a new category for these people.
Well,
sorry.
They're professors at the Dunning-Kruger Institute.
Not Skep. Harry, I call those people the Hambleys.
The Hambleys?
Named after Jeremy Hambley, the quartering.
Jeremy Hambley, yeah.
There's a couple layers to that burrito right there.
I admire the hustle. I do. He's like a way better version of Mundane Matt. But he really is essentially our current incarnation of Mundane Matt.
He's a complete whore. He's just a utter complete media whore. The stuff he hawks. Oh my God.
Yeah, some people they think their entire existence is just to make money. I kind of respect the hustle too, but just if you want to learn about a topic, you have this thing right in front of you. I've got two of them. I've got this tiny little one, it's a little phone, and I've got this massive computer. They're both connected to the internet. I can go and I can actually learn about stuff. I don't need to learn about it from Jeremy Hambley or Tim Pool or Dave Smith or whoever. Most of the news, I'll listen to your Tim Pools or whatever, the aggregators who are like, "Oh, this happened. When something actually piques my interest, I will go and I will research it. I will look it up and be like, "Oh, okay, that's very interesting. I'm glad I did that because that actually interests me." I'm not going to go and be like, "Oh, well, Tim Pool said this, so that's the truth." Why be so complacent with that? I will never understand.
Yeah, well, none of them look better for all of this sort of stuff. You were talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. One of you did. And I've told you I suffer from really bad imposter syndrome whenever I'm not on a manic upswing. And I had a very meta thought today. I was thinking about my imposter syndrome, and then I thought to myself, this is me and my inner monologue having a conversation, which is how this works. And I thought to myself, one thing I am good at, imposter syndrome. I'm really good at imposter syndrome. And then I started thinking, are you really?
Or are you an imposter? It's second order imposter.
My imposter syndrome is so bad that I can't even acknowledge that I'm good at having imposter syndrome. You're just faking it. You just want to have a thing like everybody else. It's like, no, just shut up, Harry. Anyway, enough about me.
I do the Jordan Peterson thing where I go, okay, well, I don't know anything about this topic, but if I start collating the information that I've gleaned over the years about this topic, I can come to something that might, pass as an opinion. But at the end of the day, I still don't know anything about it. So,
the thing is, it's not really just a false humility thing. Okay, I'm lucky enough in that in my day, I deal with a lot of different kinds of people. I deal with salt of the earth, Miller Genuine Draft, or Miller High Life kind of people. I deal with those people all the time, playing pool, no problem, right? I get along just fine with a lot of those folks. And I also deal with some people that are certified brainiacs, right? And I've had enough times in my life where I've said something that just, I wrote a check with my mouth that my ass couldn't cover, or however you want to phrase it. And I just realized I basically got socially checked because I was wrong about something. And over time, you learn not to overdo it, right? It's like, so now at this point in my life, it's like, if I don't feel like I really have a good grasp on something, I'm very careful about what I say, and there's a lot of things that fall into that category. There's a whole ton of shit that I know enough about to be dangerous, but that's about it. So, find yourself some nice, smart people to have conversations with, and that'll shore up your intellectual honesty really quickly.
And remember the Saturday night mantra. Should it be said? Should it be said by me? Should it be said by me right now?
Yeah. So let's make fun of the Obamas, shall we?
Obama.
Okay, so a few nights ago, Barack Obama was in San Francisco at a three Michelin star restaurant, one of the few in the area. And Mark Benioff, the guy who founded and runs Salesforce.com, was there too. We don't know if they were dining together, but they were both there. Now, who is not there in this picture? Who is not there with Barack Obama?
Big Mike?
Big Mike. Big Mike is conspicuously absent from this thing.
Obama.
Yeah.
For those of you just turning in.
Yeah, so Michelle Obama. So, I'm looking at this going, I didn't know Obama was in the area. And then I realized, well, Big Mike isn't there. So what the hell's going on? And I know there's a lot of rumors. I don't really care that much about the rumors, but I do find it kind of funny. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that people were saying only Michelle Obama beats Trump as an alternative to Biden in 2024. Look at how incredibly popular she is. Michelle Obama, look at those numbers. Oh, just everybody loves Michelle Obama. Well, fast forward to now, and she's got a podcast, which is doing terribly. Apparently, if you actually hand her the microphone and let her talk for a long period of time, the luster of Michelle Obama as a public personality tarnishes fairly quickly. This is actually true of a lot of people. In theory, a lot of things sound like a good idea. But I think people have figured out that Big Mike might not be the person that we want to have in charge. So if her plan was to get out there in front of the people and, and then maybe have some follow-on thing later, that plan is going very poorly. Skep.
Yeah. Michelle Obama is getting shown up in the harsh light of public inspection, and is found wanting. She is not nearly, in my opinion, as bright as her husband is. Her husband is a very bright, very creative guy. She is sort of a midwit striver, above average, with the classic B- intellect, and somebody who was more promising than some others, maybe from the background she came from, was spotted for whatever reason, and found herself launched into law school. But she's not a natural lawyer. I doubt that that the company she worked for in Chicago was a corporate lawyer for a couple of years before she surrendered her law license, before she actually parked her law license at the end of that. That's an indication that you don't want to participate in the bar at all. It goes into suspension. It also means you don't have to pay bar dues. Or actually, you do, but they're reduced. Lawyers, goddamn. Anyway, so what we see in the leavening spotlight of public examination is that Michelle Obama is just kind of a mediocre mind and isn't really too deeply caring about anybody but herself. There is a Meghan Markle-esque thing about Michelle Obama that I just can't shake it. It's that impossible, insouciant egotism that blinds them. They can't see why they fail. They'll never understand why they fail. It's the media inflation. Because the people aren't good enough for me. The audiences weren't good enough for me. I was too good for them. That was the problem. Yeah, that was the problem.
It's the media inflation, because it inflates their egos, and they think that they're untouchable. But I think in contrast, AOC's putting out the hustle, and her team is pushing, and that section of Democrats that want her, they're pushing. They seem to be pushing hard for a sooner than expected presidential run. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on the short list of candidates next time around.
Oh, she definitely will make a run at it. We'll see. She could be a Kamala Harris type candidate, where she just goes out and gets ridiculed everywhere she goes. That could be kind of
fun. I think she's got the defense of the media. I think she's got she's better. Okay, on script, she's better than Big Mike. She's better than Kamala. But off script, she's just as awful as the rest of them.
The debate should be fun.
She's becoming quite the orator. She's able to read that script and stick to those talking points really strongly, and it's convincing a lot of dimwits that this midwit can
put her in a debate with J.D. Vance.
Oh fuck, he would destroy her.
What do you think would happen? Yeah.
Oh, he's and Skep. That's the great thing is something Harry said earlier, like. Trump's got his 4 years. He's got to get everything done. I think he's going to be a lot around. Maybe not president, not POTUS, but he's going to be around for a little bit longer. Maybe under the tutelage, continuing his tutelage of Vance, who, my God, just listening to the man talk about this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, he's definitely next in line. He should win, if barring any sort of big. I think that man is going to be the next president after Trump.
Okay, well,
because he's very well spoken.
Agree with you, but let me tell you what Trump is going to do. In my opinion, just one man's opinion.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I'm interested.
Trump is going to fix things, arrangements with people who have money to give to political candidates, mostly, and he's going to use his influence to make sure that he is a power player post-president, because he will know that in order to dump him, all people have to do is just turn their backs on him. And that happens in Washington, D.C. He will not want that to happen, because this is heady wine that he's not going to be finished drinking, I don't believe, in 3 more years. And he's going to attempt to continue to influence power. And there you may see a real Greek tragedy style decline, complete with an Agamemnon kind of death, straight out of Aeschylus.
Should be fun. So functional.
Did I mean Sophocles?
The whole thing with AOC. when we're talking about science, there's like one way to sort of have discourse, right? There's a method to how you do it. But if you're talking to convince someone, if your goal is to basically make somebody else come around to your way of thinking, it's really rhetoric that you're talking about. Being right has nothing to do with winning a rhetorical argument much of the time. Being right is not a necessary or sufficient condition to winning an argument in terms of rhetoric, because you've got like the brain part, and then you've got this, which is the logos. And then there's the ethical argument, is this actually fair? Is this right? And then there's the argument to people's passions. And AOC is, she's not a smart woman. She's not going to win based on logos, but she's actually quite good at, a little bit good at the ethos part and very good at the pathos part. And she can stand up there and she can inflame that 20% of the population. I don't think that the enthusiasm that this 20% has for her is going to translate to the larger electorate. Yeah. I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I don't want to be wrong about this, though. I really don't like the idea of her going in there as the anti-Trump and opening the border wide up and offering benefits to the other 7 billion people in the world, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because she is absolutely one of the worst people that could possibly be president.
Yeah, absolutely. The only slight addition I might make to that is she has problems in the ethos area because of the lies she's told about her past, about being this little girl from the
Sandy
hood.
from the block.
Yeah, Sandy from the block, and it turns out no, she was upstate.
Her parents did very well.
Yeah, more like a debutante than a ghetto girl or barrio girl. And putting on these phony accents. What the fuck is it with the Democrat women
and their phony accents? Yeah.
God, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and now this.
Brought by hot sauce, y'all.
I have a treat for you, Skep, because you just gave me a beautiful segue. Okay, so Elizabeth Warren was on a talk show called Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso. And I have a little clip here. Now, I don't know if this has been manipulated through AI. I don't know if this actually happened, because you can't really trust anything you see anymore, right? But I'm going to just decide, sure, this looks legit to me because it amuses me.
Saying that President Biden had a mental acuity. He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
Okay. Okay. Did you catch that little involuntary response? Let's go back and look at that part again.
You think he was as sharp as you?
That's a laugh.
She was suppressing a laugh. Yeah.
That's suppressed.
Well, let's let this play out a little bit here.
She couldn't audibly let it go.
I had not seen decline.
Sure you did.
And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
She looks away from his eyes.
Not when I
she
said
says,
that.
She's looking away from his eyes.
Yeah.
She
The thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him.
Sharp
Live
as a
event. I
rubber
had
eraser.
meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right, fair enough.
She almost started laughing again.
Who is this guy? Because he's kind of like a greasier Lex Friedman.
I don't know. I don't know.
A little bit more lispy Lex Friedman.
Well, I told you what his name was. It says Sam Fragoso. So he's
Sam Fragoso.
yeah. Yeah.
We need Serenity here to look stuff
Fair
up
enough.
for us.
Well, it's right there.
It is. The question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay.
Yeah. That is the question. But the fact that he basically pushed her on it and she started laughing. I mean, we all know it's fake, right? We know these people are just full of crap. The truth
It's
is
not AI.
The truth is just it's like an old friend that you think about fondly from long ago. She doesn't care about the truth. None of these people care about the truth. All they care about is winning. And that's what I hate about rhetoric. I mean, I like a good debate as much as the next person, you know, by college rules or university rules. But no, these people, AOC doesn't care about the truth. In her opinion, if she is even a true believer, the truth is not something you should let get in the way of the program. Because she has a particular outcome in mind, and the truth shouldn't be something that she has to become a slave to if it gets in the way.
Not only that presupposition on her part, but also that in her opinion, the other side is so morally defective that they do not deserve the truth from anybody else. You do not owe the Republicans the truth because they are evil. So it's just the same thing as the Tahiyya in Islam, where it's okay to lie in order to promote the faith. It's okay to lie, and in fact, they even have a defensive position where the Republicans don't even deserve the truth. They're not interested in the truth, so they shouldn't even get to look at it. It's a deeply mentally ill part of the liberal position.
Yeah, I mean, part of their main strategy is to dehumanize the other, and that's exactly what that is because they are not human. Yeah. They're evil. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe them the truth. You don't owe them respect. You don't owe them, common courtesy, as we've seen. And it's worked for their strategy. It's worked because it's proven. And I looked up this guy. He's very much a Lex Friedman of the left. He's very much a artificially created talking head that gets all the big Hollyweird types and Democrat political types. So this is not AI. This is actual part of the interview, which I actually found quite amusing because this does look like one of those things like where they have somebody create like taking an interview of somebody and changing the context because dude, that little gasp, that little crushing the laugh down, that looked like it was something else, but oh my god, it's real.
So how about a palate cleanser?
I think we need one.
We get some
okay, 6th graders science fair project. Do cat buttholes touch every surface they sit on?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so they basically put a dab of non-toxic lipstick on the cat's little chocolate starfish, and then had the cats run around doing things that cats do to see if they left marks on things. Okay, so they examined these things, and what they basically found was that long and medium hair cats had zero contact, not even a smudge on hard or soft surfaces. But short hair cats had no contact on hard surfaces, but things like soft bedding and stuff had a little bit of the old mark. So I don't know what kind of cat you have.
Not touching anything, Jack.
Yeah. So you feel better now knowing that cats' buttholes don't just like land on everything?
Yes, although Jack does like to shove his butthole. Yes, I'm talking about you. He does like to shove his butthole in your face, which is a sign of trust and endearment. Yeah, right. It's literally because he can. Because you know what? If I could walk around and shove my brown eye in people's faces and get away with it, I would.
But to be fair,
and
this person actually did in a 6th grade science fair thing actually use the scientific method. I mean, actually came up with a hypothesis and a mechanism for testing it. And why not? This seems good to me, right? Hypothesis, test it.
He developed a database, literally a collection of data.
Yeah.
That he was able to analyze and make a pretty valid sounding conclusion about.
Yeah, and
nicely done.
Yeah, good job, random 6-year-old.
Yeah,
I mean 6th grader.
Let me just tell you, many years ago, back in 1960 and I guess it was 1967, 1968, Tim May and I dominated the Northeastern United States science fair when both of us from the same high school went to the international science fair. That didn't happen very often. It was very rare that two people from the same thing would be selected. I got an honorable mention there. He got a second in physics.
Nice.
And I also got an award from the American Society for Quality Control for the way I designed. It was a haploid yeast experiment. It was microbiology, counting yeast and shooting infrared atom and seeing what it did to the growth rate and doing growth rate analysis. I was a sophomore in high school.
So Skep,
Great times. I did just great memories. I just had to share that with you.
No, it's fine. So hey, Skep, ancient killer is rapidly becoming resistant to antibiotics. Now, which ancient killer are we talking about? Typhoid fever.
Typhoid. Yep.
Yeah. So apparently, typhoid fever is building up some pretty hefty antibiotic resistance.
Right. That's one of a set of fevers, as you know. Thusly born, and we can expect all the other fellas. Yellow fever again, really?
Yeah. So, like they're saying, currently antibiotics are the only effective treatment for typhoid. Other than prevention. But once you've got it, you basically need antibiotics, or bad things are going to happen. And let's see. I'm trying to remember. There's one antibiotic that still works. I should have highlighted it. Sorry.
I'll tell you what it is. I'll go. I know exactly.
It says it's impervious to frontline antibiotics like ampicillin, chloramphenicol, sulfoxamazole, yada, 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 fluoroquinolones, and third-generation cephalosporins. None of those have any, do anything particularly good for those things. But what is the one that's left? It's not something super sophisticated.
A macrolide or a tetracycline?
Let's see. Sorry, I thought I highlighted this.
Is it an aminoglycoside? Is it a?
It's actually azithromycin. It's basically just a Z-Pak, right? So the same thing that I take if get strep throat. That's the only thing that seems to work for typhoid. This is obviously like a real problem. Because
it's not the only thing too. Lots of things are becoming more. I have to say air quotes more resistant to these to certain antibiotics. And another thing too is I was just reading about this yesterday. We're becoming resilient to what's that stuff you take for diabetes?
Insulin. Well, yeah, people who have problems with their response to insulin, as in not having a response to it, that's a huge
no.
problem.
I'm saying blanketly, humanity is becoming more resistant to the benefits of diabetics taking insulin. So the insulin is becoming the insulin that's being injected is becoming less efficacious to treating the problem, which. All these things sort of adding up, by themselves, we're kind of like, okay, well, we can move from one antibiotic to the next, and then maybe over time that previous antibiotic will become will restore more efficaciousness. Getting it out of the but it's just altogether that humanity is becoming these once tried and true. Ways of dealing with these problems are becoming less effective.
Yeah,
something to keep an eye open. I'm not chicken littling yet. I'm not saying, hey, the sky is falling. This is a huge deal. I'm saying we got to keep an eye on this because that could be a problem down the line.
It could
30,
be
40, 50 years.
It could be, and it's just one of many things like that. But
yes.
So, Skep, you're a libertarian. Last I checked, with at least a small L, right?
Indeed.
You know, there are definitely places like Mexico where you can just walk into a pharmacy and buy these things right off the shelf, right? You don't need no stinking doctor. You can just get yourself a Z-Pack. Just get yourself whatever you pain pills, boner medicines, whatever. You can just get whatever you want for the most part at those pharmacies. And the libertarian part of my brain thinks, man, this is great. Wouldn't it be great if you could just, use the AI and the internet to ask Grok what's going to happen, and then just go to the pharmacia on the corner and get whatever you need without having to go through the cartel, right? That the government enforces for the doctors, right? I'm just framing it in libertarian terms, but
this is why I want all drugs legalized.
Yes,
but
tomorrow.
The problem is you get into these sort of cases, the edge cases, like I say, the guy whose gasoline tank that doesn't get inspected ruins the water supply for 500,000 people.
No. You keep the good laws, but the things that are victimless crimes, the things that where someone is going to hell all by themselves, you let them go to hell all by themselves. Robert A. Heinlein said it. It's the most basic right a man has is to go to hell in the manner he chooses. You need to stay out of his way and let him go to hell. Now, it doesn't mean you neglect the fact that we live in a social compact and we say, okay, we're going to have certain laws, we're going to have certain behaviors that, we recognize as the norms necessary to, keep society healthy and functioning and dynamic and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
As libertarian, I want to keep most laws. I just want them modified to maximize personal liberty. It's not really too hard to do, but there are a lot of oxes that get gored in the process, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Entrenched political bullshit gets in the way.
Because there's a huge delineation, like using something in the modern scope of things right now. Fentanyl, you made the case to me that a while ago, like it is so dangerous, like just particles of it is so dangerous potentially to the individual that it's no longer just a drug. It's some kind of like bioweapon level of danger. And that, yeah, sure, that can be regulated and anthrax, these types of things. Yeah, that's not the stuff that we want. Like, but I want to be able to go to the pharmacy and say, you know what? I feel like taking some OxyContin today. I feel like I need some azithromycin. I need, boner pills, whatever. Like, I should be able to walk over, get it if I want to pay for it and want to buy it and want to stick it in my body.
Instead of having to dance for the approval of a guy who was probably emotionally frozen in time in about high school.
Yeah. And
that's
I don't
what most doctors are.
And to that point too, Skep, is I don't want these companies that produce these things to be able to advertise like everybody else. They can't, like, I think that they should be controlled to the point where they have to tell the truth about this stuff. They can't knowingly lie about something that could cause harm. Just like with cigarettes, just like they did with
fraud.
These opiates. Fraud is still fraud, and they cannot fraudulently make claims that aren't, so informed consent is my big thing. Like, everything should be available, but you should have to be
misrepresentation.
Exactly. The information has to be there. It has to be available if you're selling this product. Fine, that's it. Because if I do want to, like you said, Heinlein's quote is a great one. If I want to take a handful of Vicodin and off myself, I should be able to.
Yeah. Well, I don't have an issue with things where you might hurt yourself. The only things I worry about are things where you might be able to hurt others in a way that you can never compensate them for the damage that's caused.
Right. Well, that's the combine. That's
the exception for me. So, for instance, boner pills, knock yourself out. Right. That's fine. Even the pain medicines, fine. Pain medicines, fine. But when you start getting into things like date bad touch drugs like ketamine and things like that, I would maybe want to have some kind of record of who had purchased these things that could be used as tools in a criminal spree, right? That there's only a handful of things that I would actually sort of regulate, and I would actually like people to not just abuse antibiotics for the sake of humanity. But most of that stuff, yeah, it's like if you want to buy a truckload of Sudafed and turn it into meth, I really don't care. As long as I'm allowed to shoot the crazed meth addict who breaks into my house trying to get money for a fix.
What you can't do is burn down the neighborhood with your meth lab, and you also can't go out and buy a trainload of or a truckload of dynamite and park it in front of your house. I'm for normal laws. Most life would not change. It's just you would find you have a lot less tax to pay and a lot more freedom to do what you want and need to do with your life.
Well, let me point you at this post from the Libertarian Party of Louisiana, which went predictably, a lot of people in the chat sort of, they're not having the nuanced conversation we're having. They're just talking about lolbertarians and that sort of thing. But they say here, if there's no victim, then there's no crime. Well, okay. I
can see that more than half of those do have victims.
Well, like for instance, you don't want to wear your seatbelt. Well, as long as I'm not responsible for your, for your medical bills, whatever. But unfortunately, I am sort of the Pirate Bay, so copyright protection. Stealing other people's intellectual property.
Stealing stuff from people. Yeah.
I think you have to seriously address the issue. Can a white person be a victim of anything? I think the answer is no.
I'm going to set that issue aside because, yes, that is very funny. But, I mean, the prostitution thing, who's the victim? Well, that's really more of the sex worker may have been forced into that literally with the drugs that I don't want to sell at the thing.
Right.
There are bad things. There are bad people out there who might. There's no way of saying that on its face that type of commerce
Harry,
is being done the way it should be.
There's science that you need to hear. If you sell the drugs freely that I want to sell, you can make stuff 58 billion times worse than the stuff you want to regulate at home with a Bunsen burner. Saying.
I know.
Okay.
So this went through here, and a lot of people pointed out that the people going over the wall, well, that is actually a crime. I mean, who does it hurt? The taxpayers of the United States.
Right.
Citizens who live in that,
People who work, I pay a lot of taxes. And I know what my taxes go to. Supposed to be roads, helping the deserving poor, national defense. These are all things, I totally understand that I have to do that, right? But letting in a bunch of people who, for one generation, are going to be net takers and letting them in by the millions, I might have something to say about that. This is not a victim. This is not a victimless crime.
It's completely destabilizing. Look at what's happened to both of our countries because of these open door policies. We've gone from economic, social, and cultural powerhouses to middling doofuses.
Yeah.
But I had a thought.
Like, it's incredible, Skep. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, Canada's economic structure was surpassing the United States, something nobody thought possible outside of the British Empire because of the history of the British Empire. Notwithstanding, that's kind of like a special case. But every other Western country, European country, whatever, nobody could even come close to that. But again, circling back to last week, because of the special relationship that U.S. and Canada had, we took advantage of that. But even, and it wasn't anything to scoff at the United States because there still was production happening in the United States. Sure, it was at the early onset of them moving everything overseas, but before all that happened, socially, politically, economically, all these metrics, the United States was untouchable. And today it's kind of like, well, you're 2 weeks away from financial ruin. You're 2 weeks away from complete and utter social collapse. This is unprecedented.
Well,
I shouldn't say that because the Roman Empire happened, but
Harry probably does not want to break into a discussion of what's going to happen to the dollar when the shit comes down. But at some point that will happen. That is the thing we're facing. We're still not doing anything about it. And Doge, don't tell me that wasn't even it was barely a step in the right direction. It was a lurch in the right direction.
Lowering interest rates did more good, honestly.
Yep, absolutely.
But I want to. But there's a guy here in this, and that's Hunter Biden, right? And when I was looking at this, I thought of a fairly narrow point, right? Because I was looking at the mood of the people in the discussion talking about this thing, and it was the retarded conversation you can imagine. I don't even need to get into it. But I think the Hunter Biden thing is really a different question. So it's like the note I wrote to myself is, does letting laws be selectively applied make the world more libertarian? So for instance, if Hunter Biden gets away with it, does that make the world more entertaining, more libertarian? Or is it actually more important that even if the laws are unjust, that they be applied equally?
But which part, Harry? Because in my opinion, that plays that's a huge factor, because his drug use, his buying prostitutes, don't give a shit. Do not give a shit.
I understand that.
But I think that's what they're referring to in that little cell. However, the pay-to-play thing, the representing through proxy, his dad, etc., that I believe is like, no, like that needs to be crushed. Yeah. That needs to be quashed. That needs to be prosecuted. There needs to be consequences to these actions.
Well, my thesis is basically that I would rather not have pure libertarianism and have the laws applied equally to all people being equal under the law, than have some people enjoy the libertarian promised land while other people get mercilessly crushed by the law. I think it's almost more important for the law to be just than it is for it to be libertarian. And that was the thought that came to mind, because if everybody gets away with these things, fine. But in the case of something like Hunter Biden, he got away with so much shit that none of us would have ever gotten away with. And if everybody doesn't get the same privilege I want, I would rather just have the laws be wrong and not libertarian than let some people let our betters get away with it. That's the point.
It's not necessarily an either or choice. You can have a libertarian society where the laws are closely applied. Yeah. You can have laws against certain types of conduct. That's libertarian with a small L. Just means that the stuff that you do, you always look for ways to maximize individual liberty and let that be a primary driver in how you approach what set of laws you do want to keep and live under and apply to the social compact that everybody agreed to. And one other thing I wanted to mention to Harry, just to hear Harry hurt publicly. Harry, do you know how the government sends you these insulting tax statements showing you how much tax you've paid over your life? And you know how when it's heading toward like 7 digits, it's like the amount of tax that I've paid is closer to $1 million than it is zero. It's staggering, the amount of money they have taken from me. It absolutely blows me away.
That's all right.
Even still, when somebody says taxation is theft, I want to slap them.
So, like, Harry, do you feel like you pay your fair share when you get that statement?
Oh yeah, I honestly don't read that statement to be brutally honest, but
I don't think Harry can count that high.
I have to. I take off my shoes. There are methods. I actually have a few things I want to make sure we cover tonight. So in the interest
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go.
No. This is all my problem that I'm actually giving a damn about the spreadsheet. So I'm going to, because we could probably talk about this for another hour, but let's instead. Let's see. So let's talk about Gavin Newsom for a moment. Now, remember, I said a few months ago, I mentioned that like some of the cities were invoking taxes, carbon taxes, basically on the refineries in those cities. as a means of punishing them or making the world a better place and enriching their coffers. Can you imagine being a refinery and trying to make gasoline and then having the city that your refinery is located in taxing you in that sort of way? And I believe we all said at the time, well, we can kiss those refineries goodbye. Well, let me present you with what's happening right now. Bay Area refinery closure could be a huge blow for California drivers. One of the few refineries left in California has announced a plan to potentially shut down by next year, raising the risk of boosting sky-high gas prices in California even further. On Wednesday, Valero, which owns one of the 9 refineries in California, a place with more cars than anywhere else, has 9 refineries left, and one of them's leaving, that produce gasoline, said it plans to idle, restructure, or cease refining operations at its Benicia refinery by April of 2026. The Energy Corporation cited numerous reasons for possibly ceasing operations, but mainly it's that no sane person would operate a refinery in Benicia given what's going on, or Martinez, okay? So things are not going particularly well in a lot of these refineries here. So they talk about the whole thing about the statewide pattern. A bunch of these things are just closing, and we're not electrifying fast enough that this isn't a problem. So Gavin Newsom has turned around and is actually, even he has realized, hey, this isn't really going particularly well, and has been doing a bunch of backdoor deals and sending letters to the refineries saying, please, refineries, we really do love you. I know we treat you like shit, but, you know, baby, you're still my favorite. And they're still planning on leaving anyway. But he's also been talking to lawmakers and saying, could you maybe get off the refineries' dicks so that we don't end up in a state with no refineries? He's in such a no-win position because he wants to go for national office, so he needs to not be governor of a failed state. But California doesn't give a crap about his national ambitions and is just charging to the bottom. They just can't help themselves.
The negative campaigning against Gavin Newsom in the presidential campaign, and it's inevitable. I think he'll be the nominee. I actually think he'll have the strongest run at being the nominee.
Yep.
AOC may be his vice presidential candidate.
Oh, that'll be great.
That is a real possibility in kind of a Sarah Palin kind of thing. And so it would be he would have to face. He's going to have some very uncomfortable scrutiny because he's got such a record. It's for so long doing different stuff. And he's going to get asked about sleeping with his best friend's wife. He'll get asked about that. I guarantee you.
Yeah, he's going to be asked about a lot of things.
You know that story, right?
Oh, it's all very tawdry.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Hey, are you in the mood for a similar story?
Why not?
Why not? Let's see. Speaking of governor, by the way, just really quickly, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. In things that won't ever happen for 1,000, British Conservative launches California governor bid lambasts San Francisco. So it's that Steve Hilton guy from Fox and other things.
Steve Hilton.
Yeah, apparently he's running to be governor of California and definitely start off by criticizing San Francisco, the second biggest population center in the state.
Piss them off. That's how they get them to vote for you. Jeez.
This yeah. I actually know somebody who once ran for superintendent of schools just to have the opportunity to stand up on a podium and say and just give them like truth bombs over and over again at debates and stuff, with no intention of actually winning, just really going there to cause a lot of trouble. It was glorious. It was really great. But I think this is all Steve Hilton's doing. He's just LARPing at being a candidate. He can't be serious. There's no way in hell this guy's going to win. The substance is just not there. And the way he sort of comes off, it's just, this isn't what people are going to imagine their governor being.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at Larry Elder's run. Great man, checks all the right boxes for the left, yet still could not make a dent.
They accused him of being a white supremacist.
Yeah. The black face of white supremacy.
That the old black guy was the new face of white supremacy.
Yeah, and he could not make a dent. So, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. It does sound like he's LARPing. I have no idea who this guy is, but
yeah, it's okay.
I don't think anything outside the Democratic Party has a snowball's chance in hell in California.
He's an English guy on Fox News, one of those commentators who isn't Piers Morgan. It's not even worth your time looking the guy up.
Yeah.
Now, if I am wrong and he suddenly takes the state by storm and wins, I will happily admit that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I don't. It's fine. But I'm pretty damn sure. I would bet serious money that this guy is not going to become governor of California.
I think that would be a pretty safe bet. I'll bet you could get amazing odds in Vegas against this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, good times. Oh, that's right. We were going to talk about something else. God, there's so much stuff we could talk about.
The pie?
What?
Pie?
Pie?
Punch and pie.
I like pie.
Oh, you like pie?
Yeah, apple
no.
pie, blueberry pie, raspberry pie, rhubarb pie.
How about
peach pie?
How about we
meat pie? Oh, meat pies. Oh,
so you don't drive, right? Functional?
Well, no, not since my accident. That's why I'm a cripple.
Can you appreciate? You can appreciate a fine vehicle, though.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And Skep, you live
I'm
in.
a guy. I love.
You live in Texas. Do you own a truck, Skep?
I just sold my Toyota Tundra to my nephew for a nominal amount of money. Basically, gave it to him.
So let me tell you a story.
Buy this for nickel.
You know this. I actually think it's really lazy to talk about the simulation. It's not something that I particularly like about Scott Adams. I mean, it's fine. He's good at just sort of chewing up scenery by just going off and riffing on ideas. It's fine. I'm not going to be super critical of him. In fact, I've got a clip from him that's coming up in a moment. But I was thinking to myself, and I said, again, the inner monologue and I were having a chat, and I was thinking, I wish that there was, I hate modern cars, and I don't want to replace my car, or honestly my motorcycle, because cars have too much crap. The last thing in the world I want is a big infotainment screen in the middle of the dash of my car. Of all the things I don't want, that might be one of the things I don't want the most, along with like Lou Gehrig's disease and cancer and a number of other things. I mean, it's like on the list of things that I just don't want in my life. Up there,
that's
high.
spiky brain cancer's real bad. That's spiky brain cancer.
Don't
want
that. Don't
no,
want a glio. Don't want any of that stuff. And I know people who know people who have those. I get it. There's a lot of bad things in this world, but jokingly, an infotainment system in the car, don't want that. But specifically, there's just so much crap. And I was thinking, I want like a maker car. I want a car where I can start with a bare bones car and have the things I want just added to it.
Yes.
And I don't want any extra crap. I want to be able to do whatever I want with it. And I was thinking, this is what I want. And literally 2 days later, the simulation, tongue in cheek, provided me with exactly the thing that I said I wanted. And then the question is, do I still want it, even though this is a thing? The $20,000 American-made electric pickup with no paint, no stereo, and no touch screen. It is essentially, like they're saying, the digital detox. So it is a $20,000 truck,
nice,
rear-wheel drive, 200 horsepower, 150-mile range. It can be expanded to have more range if you want, but they're saying $20,000 after incentives, right? That's a price point you can kind of go, yeah, this is fine. There. And it's wonderfully, all of the crap that I hate is wonderfully absent on this thing. There's no stereo. The windows have cranks on them. It's all just painfully austere. But if you want to,
you'll be happy when you're in the lake.
Yeah, but if I want to, I can actually add new trim. There's a shell that you can put over the back that makes it a covered pickup. It has enough
edging.
What?
Enough edging. Let me see the damn truck.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't showing it to you.
There we go. Okay.
You wanted to see it.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were watching what I was showing. I thought
you were just trying to give us a preamble.
No. So here's the truck. This is the Slate truck, and it's supposed to come out late next year. Now,
who's the manufacturer?
This is a new company. They have a factory. They're backed by people like Bezos and other people, so they've got real money behind them.
Okay.
Okay. So it's all just simple. Like if you want it to be a different color, they've arranged the body panels in such a way that if you want to wrap this, it's easy to wrap. And they're going to, basically anything other than the parts where you can kill yourself, like the high voltage stuff, there's supposed to be instructions for shade tree mechanics to do anything you want to it. Yeah, very modular. Fix it yourself. Low maintenance, not a lot of stuff that can actually break. I like this thing because this really is exactly what I was asking for.
150 miles.
That's enough for a lot of things. Is that real? Yeah. Those could be city really miles. 150?
Yeah, 150 miles would suit me. Most of the driving that I do every once in a while and make a long drive. But
so, like, here's your interior. I have zero problem with this.
Steering wheel, glove box, done.
Yeah. And if you want, you can install a little stereo in there. That rear wheel is optional. That cover that makes it like an SUV is optional. There's seats you can put in that are optional. Everything is optional. Fancy wheels are optional.
That's fantastic.
So it's kind of like a Chinese takeout.
Yeah, I
get two from A.
Well, this is very much the same thing that I said that I wanted, right? So you can turn it into an SUV or just have it be a pickup. I like this quite a bit. I think I could see myself buying one of these things because my motorcycle goes more than fast enough to keep my adrenaline going. I kind of would like to just be able to carry shit and not have to worry about my super expensive Range Rooney getting scratched at the Home Depot. Because in this case, they're like the Saturn. So if you get a body panel that's scratched, it's the same color all the way through. You can just order a new panel.
You may want to carry the groceries home in the rain.
Yeah, here you can make it like a Subaru Baja. Mm-hmm. I mean, I actually kind of like this.
I'm surprised it took the auto industry this long to get to something so modular and so customizable because people have been clamoring for this type of stuff forever. And a good metric of that is video gaming, actually. Mm-hmm. So with things like racing games, your Grand Theft Autos, those types of games where you have this type of equipment that is so hyper customizable. People may have made careers online about their customizations. And there's entire industries in the auto industry itself, like not the industry itself, but the car aficionados of these customizations and restoring old cars with new customizations to them. Like it's actually surprising to me that it took someone in the auto industry. Well, obviously they're a new player in the auto industry, but to enter the auto industry, to give the consumer something that says, go nuts. Yeah. This is yours now. You do what you want with it. Reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons where Unky Herb, who owns one of the big manufacturing concerns in the United States for cars, and he says, well, no, I want a car for Homer. And Homer, to Herb's sort of, inability to think that far in the future, says, okay, design the car that you want, Homer, and he does, and he gets exactly what he asked for. Homer gave him, but that's the car for Homer. That's not the car for Harry or Skep or Functional. That's Homer's car. That's not something that you would put on a show line. However, the starting basic for that type of stuff that would allow that level of customization, wow, chef's kiss. Beautiful.
So here's a little section I was trying to, I don't know what happened to all my highlighting. I have this tool that lets me highlight things. All of my highlighting is gone. So if you see me scrolling incompetently, I was screwed by technology. Okay, so vehicle factories tend to have high ceilings to make room for multi-story stamping machines that form metal body parts. Injection molding of plastics is far easier and cheaper to do in limited spaces. Spaces like the factory that Slate has purchased for its manufacturing, reportedly near Indiana. The vehicle is designed, engineered, and manufactured in the U.S., with the majority of our supply chain in the U.S. It just keeps getting better, right? Now, I was originally
kind of a little injection molded. So are the panels plastic, or are these
like
just
on the old Saturn cars, the panels are injection molded.
I hope it's got a good skeleton then.
Well, yeah, obviously not the skeleton, but they're aiming for a 5-star crash safety thing. It's got all the airbags and all that other horse shit in it and collision avoidance, and they've built a lot of that sort of stuff in. And it has a backup camera, so there's some things they're sort of stuck with, but they really have pared it down to just the minimum stuff you can get away with in 2026. And that's what I really like about it. That and the ability to repair it yourself. Now, originally, I was thinking this is something that only Harry gives a shit about, and I am not going to talk about it on the show. Okay, but something changed my mind because I had seen this thing yesterday, and then this morning, Scott Adams said the following.
Speaking of automobiles and speaking of Jeff Bezos, there was a lot of publicity today for a truck, an electric truck, that's also being backed by a Jeff Bezos startup. Yep. And this little truck comes with just only the basics so that they can price it at about $20,000. So it's just a 2-seater truck. It's not very big. It's more like a Toyota. And the windows are just hand cranked and there's no entertainment system, but you could add it. So it's being made like, I think they called it a Mr. Potato Head.
I said it's like Heathkit.
So you can get the basic, and it'd be like $20,000, which would be amazing. But then you could add a stereo if you wanted, and you could add a video screen if you want. And
I don't.
You could add some other stuff. Now, here's the thing, though. I looked at the pictures of it, and it totally activated my lizard brain. You know, if you're male, and maybe this applies to some women as well, yeah, the company is called Slate. When I looked at the truck, I just had this feeling in my body, and it was like, oh, I just want it. I want it. Like really
okay, I was
badly.
confused there. I was wondering if that was a disgusted or a...
No.
Oh, I'm excited.
He's excited about it, and his response to it was exactly the same as mine was. But see, I have the added benefit of 2 days before I put out into the universe, not on my the dream board in my head, that I actually want this, right? And then the universe comes out and says, "Hey, Harry, that thing you asked for, here you go."
Like I said, I'm surprised it hasn't been a thing before now, because I see that as being a very favorable, very popular idea.
Yeah, I want a no bullshit truck. The back bed is big enough to hold a sheet of plywood. That's all I need. And I'm
and it's
I kind of want
big
one.
And comfortable enough that you and imaginary girlfriend can go get some Five Guys and we're in and out and have be comfortable.
Of course, you do have to roll the window down the hand crank when you when you get to the thing.
Motherfucker, I hate power windows. I want hand cranks on every fucking window. Dude, I hate the fucking power windows.
I know.
Like, I want an inch and a half open. You push the damn button, it goes 3 inches. No. Just like an inch. No. Now it's closed. Well, okay. No.
Is that for when you're traveling?
Yes.
You give your ID to the police when you're traveling. Just kidding. The sovereign citizens cracked me up.
I'm a sovereign citizen. Citizen. Don't answer questions.
But when I was a little kid, my dad got it in his head that he was going to get a Lincoln Continental Mark III, one of the most technologically advanced cars of its kind at the time. But it wasn't new. This was like, decade and a half later. He had this Lincoln Continental Mark III that he was going to fix up. And it had power windows and power mirrors and power antennas and power everything. Everything was power, and almost all of it did not work at that point. Because essentially you take this sophisticated thing with all these electric motors and all these controls, and what ends up happening to it in 15 years, none of that shit works. But the only thing that works was the gas tank wasn't falling off, and the engine did actually start, although it did try to shoot flames up and burn the house down. That's another story. That was mostly him being stupid with the carburetor and the air filter. But the point being that I don't like a lot of extra shit that just breaks, and then I have to pay money. I can crank the window up and down myself. I'm fine with that. In fact, I prefer it. As long as it's... Go ahead.
So there.
The amount of computer electronics is what in modern cars is what prevented me mostly from getting a new car after my accident. Was I look at that, I see, like you said, it's just one thing after another that's going to break down. Not if, when, and like
it's made to, bud.
Yeah.
But
you got to go to the Steeler.
Even with his anecdote, it's like, okay, so the back passenger or the back seat left side window doesn't work, like the switch doesn't work anymore. Okay, well, whatever, not a big deal. Oh, well, now this light doesn't work. Oh, well, that's not a big deal. It's one little not a big deal after another until you get to the point where nothing works.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, what's the point? Now you have all this weight and these electrical gizmos in your car that your battery's feeding power to, but they don't work.
Yeah.
There's so much waste there. Yeah.
Well, I think we're all of one mind on this. We'll have to see if it ends up becoming a real thing or not.
Yeah, if I had to put money on it, if I could invest, I would. But if I had to put up money on it, I'd say that this will probably, all things being equal, will sell like gangbusters. And what do I mean by that? Like it has a good safety rating, the batteries aren't falling out or blowing up, for no reason, kind of things. Then I think that this will sell like gangbusters.
Well,
and good too, because it's American made.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Well, not everybody's
got a lot of Canadian steel in there.
Not everybody's on board with it. Slash Gear came out and basically said, mini truck is cool, but there's a good reason nobody's tried it before. Well, I think the main reason people have not tried it before is because society wasn't ready for it, and also just greed.
The hubris
is right
of the
about
auto industry.
About the Steeler. They have a model, and it's almost a model for printing money. But the world is changing, and car stuff needs to sort of change with it. I can totally see you being able to buy this off of Amazon and then them roll it up to your door the next day with a big bow on it.
You bet.
Oh, definitely.
Yep. I think it's going to be an interesting time in 2026. We're all killing time before that meteor hits in 2032. So I have a few things here.
2% chance.
Yeah, only 2% chance. It's just getting larger every time they recalculate it. It's fine. So I often talk about what the YouTube algorithm is trying to do to my brain, right? Mm-hmm. Because the YouTube algorithm clearly has ideas about what Harry is supposed to be watching.
Weird feedback loop that you're afraid to click on stuff because you don't. No, don't send me more of this stuff.
So
you
I have
a curiosity.
I've decided that that I should just collectively call this a segment, since I keep going back to it, and I'm just calling this segment the algorithm. Okay, so it's just like, just sort of comments about the algorithm. Now, Functional, you're going to like this. What happened a few days ago before I started thinking about simple cars is, for an entire day, it kept throwing pretty women at me who were cooking. And I've decided I'm going to dub them the gastro thoughts.
Is this my fault?
It's the gastro thoughts. And now, and this is what YouTube decided Harry was interested in.
Close.
Now, I'm not saying I don't like pretty women cooking. Okay, not at all. Not, YouTube, you're on the right track, but it gets a little tiresome when it's an entire day of just gastro thought after gastro thought after gastro thought. So, like, here's one of them.
Lasagna.
It's like, I know what you're doing, YouTube. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. And there apparently are a lot of these women on YouTube. I was unaware of this fact. Okay, there's another one. I guess she's been on the Tonight Show and a bunch of other stuff.
Last year, I told
her
you
big
how to
thing is
identify
she flips people off, and she's got a potty mouth, but she's like the cool chick. She's like a pick-me girl who cooks for
shit
people.
Tomato from a not shit tomato. Today, I'm going to show you how you can fix a shit tomato if you fucked up and you bought one. These are a range.
YouTube is full of women like this, okay? And I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, I like nice things, but I don't, it's like, I mean, Functional.
Expressing herself, let her express herself.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, she's successful. Apparently, she's been around for a while. Went to culinary school, worked in a restaurant, became a personal chef for annoyingly rich people. And now she's on social media and on like network television. This Olivia chick here.
She's not the first.
Married to a hedge fund manager, probably.
Probably.
it was a Canadian show, but did you guys ever hear of Bitchin' Kitchen?
Oh yeah, Nadia G.
Nadia G, yeah. Okay, so that was going to be my point. Like, this has been done before.
Yep.
It was obviously a little bit more tamer because it was the television and not the interwebs, internet.com. So, I mean, it's been done before. Not my, let them express themselves. Not my cup of tea. I'd rather, and I know I showed you the other one and stuff that kind of escaped my attention and was dutifully pointed out by Serenity. Oh my God, what is she doing? Where it's more laid back, sort of traditional, and the woman doesn't need to be wearing a low cut top. And in fact, I like it when they look like they're dressed to cook. Mm-hmm. And that's my cup of tea. That's the type of cooking content I like.
Got to fry chicken in that outfit.
Or bacon. The other one, the one doing the fucking celery chopping or onion chopping or whatever the hell she was doing. I'm like, bitch, you're not cooking anything. Go cook some bacon. Cook some bacon and see how fast you run from that kitchen.
She's making lasagna with her exposed midriff and her skinny arms.
That's a culinary. That's a, what'd you call it?
Gastrothought. Yeah.
That's a gastrothought. The other one, not so much. She's just trying to play into her foul mouth, which, I mean, if anybody who's worked in the kitchen, everybody's got a foul mouth. That's kind of why it was not seen as very feminine spaces. But hey, if the woman can hang with the boys in the kitchen, she gets mad respect.
Well, that's why I said I think she's kind of a pick-me girl, and I mean that in the good way, because I don't think being a pick-me is a bad. No, she's a woman who's trying to appeal to men, not just visually, but just by being very straightforward and not being fussy and easily offended.
Mind, pick-me is that, but it's to the point of so that they will pick her as mating type stuff.
No, she's like
I see what you mean now.
She's like a guy's girl. You know, she's like the girl that even if you aren't dating her, you can hang out with her.
As a marketing strategy to improve her brand, because these days the brand is you. You are your brand.
You know, I hate to give away the conclusion, but I totally agree with you. By the way, I think this is just sexuality on display. Again, no problem, but that's not what I'm on YouTube for. And she actually has some useful tips about things. I mean, she's not completely terrible. So like here. Oh wait. No. Can't sign in.
You must sign in.
Let's see here.
I'm going to teach you how to identify a good steak from a bad steak using your eyes and your feet. Explain that later. The first steak is a select steak. Technically, the bottom of the barrel, but only because it's super lean. That doesn't always mean it's a shit steak. Very uniform color. Not a lot of fat marbling. A little bit more tough. It's not very juicy. It won't be super flavorful. The one thing I will say about select steaks is that I don't know if I necessarily trust them all the time. I'm going to tell you a couple things you can do to determine if you trust a steak. Mostly avoid steaks that are flaccid. Steaks that are really dark red, almost to a purple, might look like be a richer flavor. But what that actually is something called dark cutter meat. Google it. It's a really high pH.
See, I mean, this is fine, right? I've got no problem with it. And the fact that she's kind of easy on the eyes is not really an issue. But
she reminds me of somebody I used to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Gastro thoughts. I just mostly liked that phrase that I coined. But there were a bunch of It was like a whole day. It was like a whole day of these women coming at me. The algorithm decided that is what I needed a lot of in that one day, and the next day, nothing. Like it realized it didn't, because I just kept skipping and saying, "Don't show me this person again." Enough times it moved on to the next thing as the eager puppy that it is.
So if I put Elwyn in a push-up bra and put her in front of camera, give her a script to talk about the proper jargon to talk about cooking, I can create a channel that's actually called Gastro Thoughts.
You could. You absolutely could do that. Okay.
Lots of the Gastro Thoughts.
I think that would be a fantastic channel name, is Gastro Thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so good. Hey, and you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I just checked my splash page. I don't see a single one. Where did they go? Where did my Gastro Thoughts go?
Yeah, YouTube thinks very little of me. I told you, and I told Geodes and everybody, that for a while I was just constantly getting hit with like the cheerleaders that they have at Korean baseball games.
Really?
Yeah, it just gave me tons and tons of Korean baseball cheerleaders.
Interesting.
And it's embarrassing because, imagine your girlfriend walks behind you and sees all this stuff, just like the things. And it's
Korean
just like,
cheerleaders?
Really?
Really?
This is what you want? Really? No, it's not what I want. Okay. So
that's exactly why I'm not clicking on them.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. How much time do we have? We have a little bit of time. We've got like 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
We got 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Well, let's talk about the Isaacman thing, because this is actually really interesting to me. So we talked about Isaacman, who's the nominee to run NASA that Trump put forward. And I said that I was actually pretty impressed with the guy. At least on paper, he looked like a good candidate. So he is going out and doing all the right things in terms of his confirmation hearings. He doesn't strike me as a person that wants to go into NASA just to be the person who dismantles it because of Doge. I don't get the impression that that's what he wants to do. And he, from his CV, fighter pilot, he's actually been into space on a commercial flight. His basic premise is, we need to do all the smart things, right? But at NASA should definitely
he's into space.
Yes, he's been to space, and all of the things that NASA shouldn't be doing, like things that we can just buy from SpaceX and other companies, it should just get out of the way and focus on doing science.
How did you happen to go to space?
As on a commercial flight, a SpaceX thing, he actually paid his dollary dues to do this. He's also the guy that started the fighter pilot training company, that has the planes from all over the world.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of aviation and aeronautics and even space, this guy...
He's got it going on.
Yeah, he's walking the walk.
Yeah.
He seems like a good guy, and he's standing up in front of Congress and saying, look, it's not my goal to basically gut all of the science stuff. If they cut NASA's science budget by 50%, I would not be particularly happy about that. But there are definitely things NASA has no business doing. I mean, we both agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hardly. We could agree violently for the rest of this stream about all the things that are wrong, still wrong at NASA. Still wrong.
Yeah, even more wrong. But
even more, gotten even wronger.
I honestly, given what's been going on with Doge and what's been going on at NASA, I can't think of anybody better for this job at this time than this guy. Because he really just tick all the boxes in terms of actually understanding the science and actually having experience, in space, experience with aeronautics. And he's smart enough and polished enough that he can sit up there and actually deal with all of these really not very impressive people who are in our government talking to him.
He seems relaxed and confident.
Yeah.
But a charlatan can do that.
Yeah. No, how can you really tell, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder if he has imposter syndrome. But
I certainly do.
I really do hope that they don't gut all of the basic real science that NASA does. But he's still talking about using Artemis to go to the moon to meet the near-term goals.
I think they will do. I actually think probably the NASA effort, Artemis effort, will be. They'll probably get back to the moon, and then that will fold altogether because commercial space will have taken over.
There are problems on the ISS. There are some people that are very concerned that it isn't going to last until 2030.
It's not going to last till 2030. Not without closing off that entire Russian module and probably needing a new module up there just to last that long.
I think if the Chinese...
It's just not working.
Well, I think if the Chinese didn't have a space station, we probably would have already given up on it. I feel like it's just us being stubborn because we don't want to be beaten, in quotes, by the Chinese.
Yeah, there's not amazing science going on there.
Low Earth orbit is not that interesting for the most part.
It's not.
Unless Katy Perry's there.
Unless Katie, she's there. So have we decided, was she there for 6 minutes or 10 minutes?
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah, 4 minutes. That's
4 minutes of weightlessness. Which is, yeah. Quick, just some breaking news. There's a Vancouver Street Festival was going on. What would you call them? A man in a vehicle just ran through the crowd.
Oh, a vehicle of peace?
Where?
Vehicle of peace, probably. Oh, I can't. All these articles, not a single one gives any description of the person. So, I'm just going to wait until all the information comes out. But it's.
What town?
Just says the Lapu Lapu Festival in Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver. Wow.
Stan. Oh, wait, no, Vancouver. It's just Vancouver.
It could be Sora.
It's a Filipino festival. News broke half an hour ago. This is, God. You see, when these kinds of things happen up here in Canada, they'd go kind of big. The metro station shooter, the guy who in my city, the incel guy that started the whole incel thing, running over a bunch of women, and now this one. Like when these terrorists up here they go pretty big. I know you guys also have dealt with that kind of stuff too, Boston bombing and all that. But yeah, Jesus Christ, I hope everybody, I hope people are okay. I hope nobody we know got caught in that shit. Oh, I hate seeing that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's casualties.
The driver is in custody.
Yeah,
it was a street festival at East 41st Avenue and Fraser shortly after 8 p.m. tonight. The driver's in custody, and he will remain nameless because he's got an Indian name.
His name might be provocative.
Yes, it could be provocative. We don't want to provoke anything.
Starts with Mo, ends with Ahmed.
Yeah, something like that. Could be.
Yeah, well, I mean, up here, it's either that or it's, let's just say it, East Asian.
Yeah, East Asian.
Yeah, and letting a few bad apples ruin it for the rest of us. Also, who the hell's got it out for people from the Philippines anyway? All the people I've ever met from there were just lovely human beings, honestly. Of all the people really to start picking on, why in the hell would you go after them?
Yeah, I'm a big fan myself. I had a lot of Filipinos working with me and for me.
And them girls, they love the Western men.
Yeah.
They love the Western men, but they don't love the butterfly boy. Don't be a butterfly boy. Because the girls' brothers will come for you with their butterfly switchblades.
Okay. Anyway, so you guys think back to a couple years ago. There was a story about a guy who tried to order a custom Batmobile, right? And there were some problems with the delivery of the thing. So this guy was rich, and he made a deal with the sheriff, who actually sent 2 plainclothes people over to investigate the guy who had the Batmobile in Indiana, I think it was. You may remember this. This is like way back in the archives. Well, that sheriff, not surprisingly after the attention he got, was voted out of office and replaced by this woman. Now, you would think you'd gotten rid of the bad apple and now everything is going to be fine. However, San Mateo County Sheriff Christina Corpus is facing removal by the Board of Supervisors after a cascade of allegations, some scandalous, some concerning, some just plain odd, portrayed a chaotic picture of her 2 years and 3 months in office. So that was like 3 years ago. We talked about that Batmobile story. God, we've been doing this for a long time. After a county investigator found Corpus violated policies on nepotism and conflicting relationships, voters empowered the supervisors to remove her. A 3-month process slated to begin at the end of April.
A 3-month process.
Yeah. So
nimble.
Yeah. So they talked about the sheriff before was Carlos Bolanos, had his years in office bookended by a scandal. In 2007, when he was unsheriffed by San Mateo County, he and his former sheriff Greg Monks were briefly detained by police at a raid in a Las Vegas brothel. The raids were dubbed Operation Dollhouse. 5 people were arrested, but Monks and Bolanos were not among them. Anyway, that was the guy who went after the Batmobile thing, right? Okay. So let's see. Contemporaneous. They were arrested, and then she ended up becoming the thing. So she had some guy who was working for her on her campaign. Okay. And even though this guy had no background in law enforcement, he got hired into a high-level position in the sheriff's department. She tried to raise his salary 4 separate times and only succeeded once, getting him up to $247,000 a year.
Well, okay. All right.
$247,000 a year for this guy who worked on her campaign, who she apparently has a personal relationship with.
Imagine my shock.
I know. Imagine my shock.
Begin to imagine my shock.
Yeah. So the guy's name was is it Enel, Aenl? Let's just call him Shemp. It's made up, Shemp said. It's fabricated. I've always spoken very highly and cared deeply about the sheriff. I came into the scene when she decided to run because I really saw the injustices in the department. I saw the abuse, the corruption. So they found that the sheriff violated the county's policy on nepotism and conflicting relationships. She alleged in the report that by 2024, Corpus had relinquished control of the department to Shemp. Cordell offered all of the 40 people she interviewed anonymity in the report. Most of the allegations related to the personal relationship between Shemp and Corpus are attributed to one person identified as employee number 3, a civilian working at the sheriff's office. And you just go and you see it just gets more and more tawdry. So and then there were the boots, purchased at Nordstrom's according to employee number 3 and hidden away in a black shoebox in the back of her van. The $1,200 boots and an $11,000 pair of diamond earrings were the physical embodiment of an inappropriate relationship between Corpus and Shemp.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just hide it in the back. Sorry, it was $246,979 a year that he's paying. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, mommy.
Yeah. So, and, you know.
Wait. She had a husband too?
Yeah, well, she's filed for divorce now. You know,
okay, this just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah. I have a personal relationship with Mr. Shemp and with other members of my staff, Corpus said during a heated reply at a press conference. I've been dealing with this kind of rhetoric my entire career. I'm a woman of color that has gone up in the ranks in a male-dominated field. This is nothing new to me. It took her longer than I would have expected to play the girl card and the race card. But at least she threw them both out onto the table simultaneously.
What color?
There she is. You tell me.
Maybe some native, some Hispanic? Who knows?
I don't know. Corruption's corruption. Doesn't matter what color skin it's wrapped in.
I thought,
Yeah.
You know, there was a day where colored person meant something.
Well, I mean, this county seems to have some real problems with getting quality people. Between Operation Dollhouse, the Batmobile caper, and now Little Miss Inappropriate relationship here, it doesn't feel like San Mateo County really has a handle on who they put in the sheriff's office.
That's not wrong.
Because I've always thought that, like, the idea of a sheriff, a law enforcement person, you know, who has like countywide authority, but who's elected, that this is a good thing, right? It's good that this person is directly picked by the people. But the people of San Mateo County do not seem to be very discriminating about the people they decide to elect. So I feel like maybe the system doesn't actually work the way I would have thought it would work. I could be wrong.
Well, it is, because that doesn't prevent people from lying about getting into the office, but we are seeing that there is accountability. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I like the democratic process for a lot of things, but the important thing isn't the process. It's the other end of it. It's the accountability. Is there accountability for poor decision-making or outright, like in this case, criminal behavior?
Yeah.
So as long as there's that accountability, I think the process is still working. It's just a shame that we can you know, a lot of people are politically agnostic, so they just, if they vote, they kind of vote just blindly. There's no informed consent there.
So I'm going to make an abrupt shift. Okay. And there's no way to do this cleanly because I'm going to go from this to a super cool computer science story.
Yay.
I love
But
this
you just
story.
created a new word, abrupt.
Abrupt, yes.
Abrupt.
I like it.
I'm
I
very,
like it.
very tired. Okay.
Very succinct.
Rough and abrupt.
So Skep knows this, and anybody who does stuff in computer science knows this, but a lot of cryptography things depend on a source of randomness. To make a computer actually anything resembling secure, you need some way of being able to generate random numbers and random data and random strings. Randomness is very important. But computers being what they are, it's really hard to come up with good sources of randomness. What do you use? The process ID, the time down to the nanosecond, the phase of the moon.
Any arithmetic thing will cause you to eventually participate in the system. At least it's theory.
So what you basically create when somebody talks about computers having random number generators, what they really mean is pseudo random number generator.
Right.
Okay.
The seed.
But what you want is a source of entropy, something that is genuinely random. Now, the people at, I think it's Cloudflare, have come up with a way of generating entropy, or basically pure randomness. And what they've done is they have an entire wall of lava lamps. And then they have a video camera pointed at the lava lamps, looking at the patterns that are being made. And that is being used as a source of randomness or entropy for some of the things they're working on. It's like, oh, we need something genuinely random. How about a wall full of lava lamps? This is genius. It's a very low-tech solution to an incredibly high-tech problem.
It is. There's brilliance in that. That was really well thought out.
Yeah.
And you really will stay clean, in terms of the randomness game. That there's theoretically no such thing as perfect randomness, but you can get very, very close. But you have to be ingenious, and this is a great thing.
This is a great thing. So it says this is where Cloudflare's wall of entropy comes in. A large display consisting of over 100 lava lamps and a camera that periodically captures images. Instead of solely relying on computer-generated data, Cloudflare leverages an element of the physical world to aid with the encryption process. Beautiful.
I want all of them.
Chef's freaking kiss.
Chef's kiss.
This is so good. I love this.
Yeah, it's so ingenious.
Well,
That's a really good idea, yeah.
I love it when people step back from a problem. This is my favorite kind of problem solving, where people step back from a problem and instead of just trying to throw brute force at it, right? Some complex algorithm, or trying to do something really fancy to show how clever you are, they just go, why don't we just sample something from the world that gives us the thing? And it has to be something that other people can't observe unless we want them to. So you can't just use like weather data, right? Because everybody has access to the same weather data. But this wall of lava lamps on a closed network where other people can't see what's going on, genius. It's a low-tech solution to a very, very, very high-tech problem.
That you can't duplicate.
Yeah. No outsider's going to know what you use.
You can make 1,000 walls with 100 lava lamps. You will never have the same data.
No.
That's really cool. Like those. Not taking a step back, Harry, but looking back to other solutions to things, or like you said, low tech solutions to. It's such a. You look at it and you're like, well, yeah, duh, of course, but this is still something that nobody really thought of, especially in this specific idea. The idea of using something from the real world that isn't data, it's just existing in the world that's ever changing to turn into data. Fucking genius.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've ever had to make a key pair or any crypto type stuff, but frequently what'll happen is they'll ask you to just type randomly on the keyboard or move a mouse around on a screen where it can capture that movement. And this is one of the things that you can do to sort of generate random data. But this doesn't require a user to just sit there until something says, I've got enough randomness. They can just query this wall, and it's just there as a resource for them when they want to do encryption stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I thought there would be some kind of weird Brownian motion kind of thing to, generate randomness. But This is absolutely brilliant.
This is elegant. And
Yeah,
it's
turning a
elegant
little
in
bit
its
of energy
simplicity.
into
It's
elegant.
fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And honestly, if you want to improve it, just get a higher resolution camera because no matter how much you zoom in, this still works.
Right. Absolutely. There's probably no practical.
Yeah, you don't need additional walls. Just change it to like a 200 megapixel camera and sample it twice as frequently, and then you've got more randomness. You can generate a lot of randomness before you need to build a second wall. It's
the
great.
investment and upkeep of this is very minimal.
And also, it looks freaking
one of the
cool.
breaks, okay, replace it. Okay, there's $10 at Spencer's Gifts or whatever, and then the amount of energy is very minimal considering what other, like a data center versus this. Like, this is nothing compared to that. Like, this is, like Skep said earlier in the show, this is the molecule of the drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
As far as the energy goes, and it's so brilliant.
All right. So one last thing before we go. Okay. There's an animation that I found because the Japanese in particular have really been enjoying leaning into the whole Trump thing. And I know you've been singing about the AI Miyazaki sort of thing. So let's combine the weird love that the Japanese sort of have for Trump and the Miyazaki AI filter into one final thing.
死んだああ初めて俺に伝えている絶望の匂い面白いこと見せ
The smell of despair.
That is really funny.
This is so good.
The smell.
の匂いだ面白いこと見せようかほらこんなに家賃が多すぎてお父さんあかんドナルド君まだ死ぬ時じゃないでしょアメリカ万歳
I like the red, white, and blue carp. That's pretty sweet. Let's turn the sound down a little bit.
絶対負けないよズライドだね出ろサンキュー言ってないでしょ一回も言ってくださいおい仲良くしてねこの世界季節にいけるかな昔グレートだった
This is pretty great. I gotta say, I really like this.
This is
大きにまたグレートになるかも
Now wait for the end. The end is good.
あのさ有名人なら誰かのマンコを掴んでいいさそう見放されて
Now let's just do that in English for anybody. You know, if you're a famous person, you can take hold of someone's vagina. That's right. They let you do it. While he's talking to like a Totoro type thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. It's pretty great.
I retweeted that on Twitter when I saw that a couple weeks ago.
Oh, sweet. Do we feel good now?
We're happy. We're set forth with a new sense of purpose for the future and blah blah blah.
Well, in that case, thank you, panel. Thank you, chat. Zoo's closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good weekend.